Join me for an adventure, oh, much like any other, with twists and turns and plot devices, words and wonder. Now my advice is listen close. What makes this story different is the teller and the told. This one's ours and it's waiting to unfold. So come be merry with me. Yeah. Oh, come be merry with me. Come on, be merry with me. Join me for an adventure, oh, much like any other, with twists and turns and plot devices, words and wonder. Now my advice is listen close. What makes this story different is the teller and the told. This one's ours and it's waiting to unfold. Well, welcome. I am your host, Mary Mitch, and it's brilliant to see all you here. I am doing quite well, as I hope you are, on this lovely night. We're going to be getting into chapters 8 and 9 today. Last we left off, Percy had been left with a seemingly impossible decision to make. Does he leave Camp Half-Blood and risk never being able to return in order to save his friend Grover and quite possibly the camp itself? Or does he leave it to Clarice, another very capable hero, but one he doesn't quite trust entirely? Let's find out, shall we? This is Percy Jackson and the Sea of Monsters by Rick Riordan. 8. We board the Princess Andromeda. I was staring at the waves when Annabeth and Tyson found me. "What's going on?" Annabeth asked. "I heard you calling for help."
"Me too,"
Tyson said.
"Heard you yell. Bad things are attacking."
"I didn't call you guys," I said. "I'm fine." "But then who—" Annabeth noticed the 3 yellow duffel bags, then the thermos and the bottle of vitamins I was holding. "What?" Just listen," I said. "We don't have much time." I told them about my conversation with Hermes. By the time I was finished, I could hear screeching in the distance. Patrol harpies picking up our scent. "Percy," Annabeth said, "we have to do the quest. We'll get expelled, you know. Trust me, I'm an expert at getting expelled. So, if we fail, there won't be a camp to come back to." "Yeah, but you promised Chiron. I promised I'd keep you from danger. I can only do that by coming with you. Tyson can stay behind and tell them—"
"I want to go,"
Tyson said. "No." And Beth's voice sounded close to panic. I mean, Percy, come on. You know that's impossible." I wondered again why she had such a grudge against a Cyclops. There was something she wasn't telling me. She and Tyson both looked at me, waiting for an answer. Meanwhile, the cruise ship was getting further and further away. The thing was, part of me didn't want Tyson to go along. I'd spent the last 3 days in close quarters with the guy, getting razzed by the other campers and embarrassed a million times a day, constantly reminded that I was related to him. I needed some peace. Plus, I didn't know how much help he'd be, or how I'd keep him safe. Sure, he was strong, but Tyson was a little kid in Cyclops terms, maybe 7 or 8 years old mentally. I could see him freaking out and starting to cry while we were trying to sneak past a monster or something. He'd get us all killed. On the other hand, the sound of the harpies was getting closer. We can't leave him behind, I decided. Tantalus will punish him for us being gone. Percy, Annabeth said, trying to keep her cool. We're going to Polyphemus's island. Polyphemus is a S-I-K... a C-Y-K... She stamped her foot in frustration. As smart as she was, Annabeth was dyslexic, too. We could have been there all night while she tried to spell Cyclops. You know what I mean. Tyson can go, I insisted. If he wants to. Tyson clapped his hands.
Want to!
Annabeth gave me the evil eye, but I guess she could tell I wasn't going to change my mind. Or maybe she just knew we didn't have the time to argue. All right, she said. How do we get to that ship? Hermes said my father would help. Well then, seaweed brain, what are you waiting for? I'd always had a hard time calling on my father, or praying, or whatever you want to call it, but I stepped into the waves. Dad, I called. How's it going? Percy, Annabeth whispered. We're in a hurry. We need your help, I called a little louder. We need to get to that ship, before we get eaten and stuff. So... At first, nothing happened. Waves crashed against the shore like normal. The harpies sounded like they were right behind the sand dunes. Then, about 100 yards out to sea, 3 white lines appeared on the surface. They moved fast toward the shore, like claws ripping through the ocean. As they neared the beach, the surf burst apart, and the heads of 3 white stallions reared out of the waves. Tyson caught his breath.
Fish ponies?
He was right. As the creatures pulled themselves onto the sand, I saw that they were only horses in the front. Their back halves were silvery fish bodies, with glistening scales and rainbow tail fins. Hippocampi, Annabeth said. They're beautiful. The nearest one whinnied in appreciation and nuzzled Annabeth. We'll admire them later, I said. Come on. There! A voice screeched behind us. There! A voice screeched behind us. Bad children out of cabins. Snack time for lucky harpies. 5 of them were fluttering over the top of the dunes, plump little hags with pinched faces and talons and feathery wings too small for their bodies. They reminded me of miniature cafeteria ladies who'd been crossbred with dodo birds. They weren't very fast, thank the gods, but they were vicious if they caught you. Tyson, I said, grab a duffel bag. He was still staring at the hippocampi, with his mouth hanging open. Tyson!
Huh?
Come on! With Annabeth's help, I got him moving. We gathered the bags and mounted our steeds. Poseidon must have known Tyson was one of the passengers, because one of the hippocampus was much larger than the other 2, just right for carrying a cyclops. Giddy up, I said. My hippocampus turned and plunged into the waves. Annabeth's and Tyson's followed right behind. The harpies cursed at us, wailing for their snacks to come back, but the hippocampi raced over the water at the speed of a jet ski. The harpies fell behind, and soon the shore of Camp Half-Blood was nothing but a dark smudge. I wondered if I'd ever see the place again. But right then, I had other problems. The cruise ship was now looming in front of us, our ride toward Florida and the Sea of Monsters. Riding the hippocampus was even easier than riding a Pegasus. We zipped along with the wind in our faces, speeding through the waves so smooth and steady, I hardly needed to hold on at all. As we got closer to the cruise ship, I realized just how huge it was. I felt as though I were looking up at a building in Manhattan. The white hole was at least 10 stories tall, topped with another dozen levels of decks with brightly lit balconies and portholes. The ship's name was painted just above the bow and in black letters. Lit with a spotlight, it took me a few seconds to decipher it. Princess Andromeda. Attached to the bow was a huge masthead. A 3-story tall woman wearing a white Greek chiton, sculpted to look as if she were chained to the front of the ship. She was young and beautiful, with flowing black hair, but her expression was one of absolute terror. Why anybody would want a screaming princess on the front of their vacation ship, I had no idea. I remembered the myth about Andromeda, and how she'd been chained to a rock by her own parents as a sacrifice to a sea monster. Maybe she'd gotten too many F's on her report card or something. Anyway, my namesake, Perseus, had saved her just in time, and turned the sea monster to stone using the head of Medusa. That Perseus always won. That's why my mom had named me after him, even though he was a son of Zeus, and I was a son of Poseidon. The original Perseus was one of the only heroes in the Greek myths who got a happy ending. The others died, betrayed, mauled, mutilated, poisoned, or cursed by the gods. My mom hoped I would inherit Perseus's luck. Judging by how my life was going so far, I wasn't really optimistic. "How do we get aboard?" Annabeth shouted over the noise of the waves. But the hippocampi seemed to know what we needed. They skimmed along the starboard of the ship, riding easily through its huge wake, and pulled up next to a service ladder riveted to the side of the hull. "You first," I told Annabeth. She slung her duffel bag over her shoulder and grabbed the bottom rung. Once she'd hoisted herself onto the ladder, her hippocampus whinnied a farewell and dove underwater. Annabeth began to climb. I let her get a few rungs up, then I followed her. Finally, it was just Tyson in the water. His hippocampus was treating him to 360 aerials and backward ollies. And Tyson was laughing so hysterically, the sound echoed up the side of the ship. "Tyson, shh," I said. "Come on, big guy."
Can we take Rainbow?
He asked, his smile fading. I stared at him. "Rainbow?" The hippocampus whinnied, as if he liked his new name. We have to go," I said. "Rainbow, well, he can't climb ladders." Tyson sniffled. He buried his face in the hippocampus's mane.
I will miss you, Rainbow.
The hippocampus made a neighing sound I could have sworn was crying. "Maybe we'll see him again sometime," I suggested.
Oh, please.
Tyson said, perking up immediately.
Tomorrow.
I didn't make any promises, but I finally convinced Tyson to say his farewells and grab hold of the ladder. With a final sad whinny, Rainbow the hippocampus did a backflip and dove into the sea. The ladder led to a maintenance deck stacked with yellow lifeboats. There was a set of locked double doors, which Annabeth managed to pry open with her knife and a fair amount of cursing in ancient Greek. I figured we'd have to sneak around, being stowaways and all, but after checking a few corridors and peering over the balcony into a huge central promenade lined with closed shops, I began to realize there was nobody to hide from. I mean, sure, it was the middle of the night, but we walked half the length of the boat and met no one. We passed 40 or 50 cabin doors and heard no sound behind any of them. "It's a ghost ship," I murmured.
No.
Tyson said, fiddling with a strap on his duffel bag.
Bad smell.
Annabeth frowned. "I don't smell anything." "Cyclopses are like satyrs," I said. "They can smell monsters. Isn't that right, Tyson?" He nodded nervously, Now that we were away from Camp Half-Blood, the mist had distorted his face again. Unless I concentrated very hard, it seemed that he had 2 eyes instead of 1. "Okay," Annabeth said. "So what exactly do you smell?"
Something bad,
Tyson answered. "Great," Annabeth grumbled. "That clears it up." I came outside on the swimming pool level. There were rows of empty deck chairs, and a bar closed off with a chain curtain. The water in the pool glowed eerily, sloshing back and forth from the motion of the ship. Above us, fore and aft, were more levels. A climbing wall, a putt-putt golf course, a revolving restaurant, but no sign of life. And yet, I sensed something familiar, something dangerous. I had the feeling that if I weren't so tired and burned out on adrenaline from our long night, I might be able to put a name on what was wrong. "We need a hiding place," I said. "Somewhere safe to sleep." "Sleep," Annabeth agreed warily. We explored a few more corridors till we found an empty suite on the 9th level. The door was open, which struck me as weird. There was a basket of chocolate goodies on the table, an iced-down bottle of sparkling cider on the nightstand, and a mint on the pillow with a handwritten note that said, "Enjoy your cruise." We opened our duffel bags for the first time and found that Hermes really had thought of everything. Extra clothes, toiletries, camp rations, a Ziploc bag full of cash, a leather pouch full of golden drachma. He'd even managed to pack Tyson's oilcloth with his tools and metal bits, and Annabeth's cap of invisibility, which made them both feel a lot better. "I'll be next door," Annabeth said. "You guys don't drink or eat anything." "You think this place is enchanted?" She frowned. "I don't know. Something isn't right. Just be careful." We locked our doors. Tyson crashed on the couch. He tinkered for a few minutes on his metalworking project, which he still wouldn't show me, but soon enough he was yawning. He wrapped up his oilcloth and passed out. I lay on the bed and stared out the porthole. I thought I heard voices out in the hallway, like whispering. I knew that couldn't be. We'd walked all over the ship and I had seen nobody. But the voices kept me awake. They reminded me of my trip to the underworld, the way the spirits of the dead sounded as they drifted past. Finally, my wariness got the best of me. I fell asleep and had my worst dream yet. I was standing in a cavern at the edge of an enormous pit. I knew the place too well. The entrance to Tartarus. And I recognized the cold laugh that echoed from the darkness below.
If it isn't the young hero.
The voice was like a knife blade scraping across stone.
On his way to another great victory.
I wanted to shout at Kronos to leave me alone. I wanted to draw Riptide and strike him down, but I couldn't move. And even if I could, how could I kill something that had already been destroyed, chopped to pieces and cast into eternal darkness?
"Don't let me stop you," the Titan said. "Perhaps this time, when you fail, you'll wonder if it's worthwhile slaving for the gods. How exactly has your father shown his appreciation lately?"
His laughter filled the cavern, and suddenly the scene changed. It was a different cave. Grover's bedroom, prison in the Cyclops' lair. Grover was sitting at the loom in his soiled wedding dress, madly unraveling the threads of the unfinished bridal train.
"Honey pie!"
The monster shouted from behind the boulder. Grover yelped and began weaving the threads back together. The room shook as the boulder was pushed aside. Looming in the doorway was a cyclops so huge he made Tyson look vertically challenged. He had jagged yellow teeth and gnarled hands as big as my whole body. He wore a faded purple t-shirt that said, World Sheep Expo 2001. He must have been at least 15 feet tall, but the most startling thing was his enormous milky eye, scarred and webbed with cataracts. If he wasn't completely blind, he had to be pretty darn close.
"What are you doing?"
the monster demanded. Nothing, Grover said in his falsetto voice. Just weaving my bridal train, as you can see. The Cyclops stuck his hand into the room and groped around until he found the loom. He pawed at the cloth.
"It hasn't gotten any longer."
Oh, yes it has, my dearest. See? I've added at least an inch.
"Too many delays,"
the monster bellowed. Then it sniffed the air.
"You smell good, like goat."
Oh, Grover forced a weak giggle. Do you like it? It's eau de chevre. I wore it just for you.
Mmm.
The Cyclops bared his pointed teeth.
"Good enough to eat."
Oh, you're such a flirt.
"No more delays."
But dear, I'm not done.
"Tomorrow."
No, 10 more days.
5.
Oh, well, 7 then, if you insist.
7. That is less than 5, right?
Certainly. Oh, yes. The monster grumbled, still not happy with his deal. But he left Grover to his weaving and rolled the boulder back into place. Grover closed his eyes and took a shaky breath, trying to calm his nerves. Hurry, Percy, he muttered. Please, please, please. I woke to a ship's whistle and a voice on the intercom. Some guy with an Australian accent who sounded way too happy. Good morning, passengers. We'll be at sea all day today. Excellent weather for the poolside mambo party. Don't forget $1 Million Bingo in the Kraken Lounge at 1 o'clock. And for our special guests, disemboweling practice on the promenade. I sat up in bed. What did he say? Tyson groaned, still half asleep. He was lying face down on the couch, his feet so far over the edge they were in the bathroom.
The happy man said, "Bowling practice."
I hoped he was right. But then there was an urgent knock on the suite's interior door. Annabeth stuck her head in, her blonde hair in a rat's nest. Disemboweling practice. Once we were all dressed, we ventured out into the ship, and we were surprised to see other people. A dozen senior citizens were heading to breakfast. A dad was taking his kids to the pool for a morning swim. Crew members in crisp white uniforms strolled the deck, tipping their hats to the passengers. Nobody asked who we were. Nobody paid us much attention, but there was something wrong. As the families of swimmers passed us, the dad told his kids, "We're on a cruise. We're having fun." Oh, we're on a cruise. We're having fun. Yes, his 3 kids said in unison, their expressions blank. We are having a blast. We will swim in the pool. They wandered off. Good morning, a crew member told us, his eyes glazed. We are all enjoying ourselves aboard the Princess Andromeda. Have a nice day. He drifted away. Percy, this is weird, Annabeth whispered. They're all in some kind of trance. Then we passed a cafeteria and saw our first monster. It was a hellhound, a black mastiff with its front paws up on the buffet line and its muzzle buried in the scrambled eggs. It must have been young, because it was small compared to most, no bigger than a grizzly bear. Still, my blood turned cold. I'd almost gotten killed by one of those before. The weird thing was, a middle-aged couple was standing in the buffet line right behind the devil dog, patiently waiting for their turn for the eggs. They didn't seem to notice anything out of the ordinary.
Not hungry anymore,
Tyson murmured. Before Annabeth or I could reply, a reptilian voice came from down the corridor.
6 more joined yesterday.
Annabeth gestured frantically toward the nearest hiding place, the woman's room. All three of us ducked inside. I was so freaked out, it didn't even occur to me to be embarrassed. Something, or more like 2 somethings, slithered past the bathroom door, making sounds like sandpaper against the carpet.
Yes,
the second reptilian voice said.
He draws them. Soon we will be strong.
The thing slithered into the cafeteria with a cold hissing that might have been snake laughter. Annabeth looked at me. We have to get out of here. You think I want to be in the girls' restroom? I mean the ship, Percy. We have to get off the ship.
Smells bad,
Tyson agreed.
And dogs eat all the eggs. Annabeth is right. We must leave the restroom and ship.
I shuddered. If Annabeth and Tyson were actually agreeing about something, I figured I'd better listen. Then I heard another voice outside. One that chilled me worse than any monsters. Only a matter of time. Don't push me, Arius. It was Luke, beyond a doubt. I could never forget his voice. I'm not pushing you, another guy growled. His voice was even deeper and angrier than Luke's. I'm just saying, if this gamble doesn't pay off. It'll pay off, Luke snapped. They'll take the bait. Now come. We've got to get to the Admiralty. We've got to get to the Admiralty suite and check on the casket. Their voices receded down the corridor. Tyson whimpered.
Leave now?
Annabeth and I exchanged looks and came to a silent agreement. We can't, I told Tyson. We have to find out what Luke is up to. Annabeth agreed. And if possible, we're going to beat him up, bind him in chains, and drag him to Mount Olympus. Luke's back. Luke is back, ladies and gentlemen. That was a good chapter. Some new characters are being introduced. Who is that, Agrius. Sorry, I think I said Arius, but who's this Agrius guy? And why is he working with Luke? And what is Luke up to? Something about it'll pay off. He needs to check a casket. I don't know about you guys, but I don't like the sound of that. Also, I hope I did alright with the Tartarus voice. Yeah, the pit of Tartarus voice. I feel like last time it might have been a little bit deeper, but will. I think my voice cracked on like the very first line of of the Tartarus part, the Tartarus pit voice part. That was funny. But heck yeah, that was pretty darn good. Also, I just like the whole cruise ship idea in general. The idea of like an abandoned cruise ship, it's kind of cool. Just like a cruise ship that runs itself, but there's no one around but you and your friends. It'd be pretty cool. But then you wake up and find out that there are a bunch of people in a trance on it, and a whole load of monsters. Not so nice. Well, the next chapter ought to be pretty cool. It's definitely a little shorter than this last one. This last one wasn't too long either. That's alright. Started a bit late anyway, so 2 short chapters, not too bad. Are you talking about the cruise ship? That's honestly a plus. Yeah, dude, don't you just love it when you're on a cruise with a ghost cruise with your friends and you wake up and there's just like a billion people all in a trance and monsters and junk and a guy that tried to kill you once. Super nice. Very good. That was a cool chapter. I also love the hippocampi. Which are your favorite out of the two? Hippocampi or Pegasi? You like the flying horses or the water horses? Fish horse. I think if I had to choose, it would probably be the water one. Yeah, the hippocampi. Yeah, yeah. Mine actually is for a different reason. I'm sure they'd be beautiful, but I feel that my personal worst way that I could die, or one of like my personal worst ways that I could wind up dying, is drowning. I I fear the idea of drowning. I don't like it. Uh, because like I've struggled with like minor asthma throughout my life. It was really like significant when I was younger. And it would flare up a lot like in cold water and in water in general if I was just treading water. So I was just really spooked, especially growing up, that just one day like my lungs would just have a panic attack when I decided to swim one day, and I would just sink and drown. Which is just it's not a fun thing. If I had a hippocampi though, or hippocampus, if ever that happened, I could rely on my hippocampus buddy to come and get me. You'd rather ride a Pegasus? Yeah. Yeah. So I'd say like logistically, I would want hippocampus. Like if this were actually a situation where I could have it. But if it was like one-time deal, you either get to ride a hippocampus or a Pegasus, I'd go Pegasus. Also, if you could talk to horses, what would you say to one? Also, like the horses seem like wickedly intelligent for like an animal, you know? Whenever they like speak back to Percy, they're always just like, I mean, they know what the heck is going on. If it knew Mr. Ed, who's that? Mr. Ed, Mr. Ed, Mr. Ed. I don't know who is that. Is that a famous horse that I ought to know of?
The talking horse.
He's a what? What is this talking horse from? Or are you just playing a jape? Are you just japing? Are you japing it up, Coleman? Are you japing? It's an old TV show? Dude, wait, what? Sorry. I gotta know now. Mr. Ed, the talking horse. What the, what? Yo! Coleman, what made you think of this? And how do you know about it? Yeah, dude, what? Hang on. Let me show you guys. Friggin' this. How and why did this come to your thoughts? I know, like, we were talking about talking horses, but what is this, like, a well-known thing? Is this a well-known thing? Guess maybe it was popular, like, back then. Now, let me see. It had 6 seasons. 1961 to 1966. With Alan Young, Bamboo Harvester. Apparently the horse's actual name was Bamboo Harvester. So excuse me, I think you mean Bamboo Harvester. Why is the horse's name that? Coleman, I love your mind. Your brain is a good thing. Alright. Let's get Ed out of here. Alright. Well, yeah, I think we'll probably be going to a break here in a sec. But I'm excited. They've just escaped one danger, been plopped right into a new one. I guess that's just how it be sometimes, you know? When you live the life of a demigod. You guys saw nothing. Listen. I'm just keeping it on hand, just in case. Don't worry your little heart. Just. Oh, that is good. Previously, I was like bringing up my display and just like going to the Google search of it, but now I will have it on hand forever. It's so devious. It's so good. It's a beautiful thing. Okay, break time. I urge everybody to stand up. I know it's late, but shake out your troubles. Stretch it out a little. Your body will thank you. And go grab yourself a snack or make water, you know. Do your biz, and then we'll be back in about 5 minutes. Sound like a deal? Don't go nowhere. We have chapter 9 coming up in about 5 minutes. I'm looking forward to it. See you guys very soon. Mwah.
Come on, get up, Atsushi. It's time to go.
I'm just no good! I should have never been born!
Look at me. Listen to me very closely. Don't pity yourself. Once you go down that road, life turns into an endless nightmare.
Don't pity yourself. Look at me. Don't pity yourself. Look at me.
I wish that you young'uns wouldn't insist on bringing up the past.
Why did you give him what he wanted? Dazai.
Don't pity yourself.
You're going to make it, so don't talk like you're...
Listen. Remember how you told me that you subjected yourself to violence and bloodshed because it might help you find some reason to exist?
To exist.
Not gonna find it. Deep down, you know it's true.
Darkness will always be there.
You won't find what you're seeking. Nothing in this world will be able to fill the loneliness inside you. Try as you might, the darkness will always be there.
Odasaku, tell me what I should do.
Be someone that protects people.
If both sides are the same to you, then become a good man. Protect the vulnerable, help out some orphans. I know that the concept of good and evil doesn't mean much to you, but at least it would make your world a little more beautiful.
You can't know that.
Of course I can. I I'm certain of it. Because I know my friend better than anyone.
All right. I'll do it.
It's funny. The story I read said people live only to save themselves. It's true. I understand that now.
All right. Enough of of whatever was going on in that break screen. Oh boy. Wait, I think if I bring him up now, he's still gonna be scrolling. Dude, the boy is too fast. Need to stop his scrolling ways. Oh, so good. All right. We, ladies and gentlemen, have a chapter to read. So, without further Tysoning, you need to have a word for that. What do we call that? Clopsin? Clopsing it up? I don't know. That's the best I got. You've just been clopsed. Okay. Let's jump into it. This is Percy Jackson and the Sea of Monsters by Rick Riordan. 9. I have the worst family reunion ever. Annabeth volunteered to go alone, since she had the cap of invisibility. But I convinced her it was too dangerous. Either we all went together, or nobody went.
Nobody,
Tyson voted.
please.
But in the end, he came along, nervously chewing on his huge fingernails. We stopped at our cabin long enough to gather our stuff. We figured whatever happened, we would not be staying another night aboard the zombie cruise ship, even if they did have $1 million bingo. I made sure Riptide was in my pocket, and the vitamins and thermos from Hermes were at the top of my bag. I didn't want Tyson to carry everything, but he insisted, and Annabeth told me not to worry about it. Tyson could carry 3 full duffel bags over his shoulder as easily as I could carry a backpack. We sneaked through the corridors, following the ship's "You Are Here" signs toward the Admiralty suite. Annabeth scouted ahead invisibly. We hid whenever someone passed by, but most of the people we saw were just glassy-eyed zombie passengers. As we came upstairs to Deck 13, where the Admiralty suite was supposed to be, Annabeth hissed, "Hide!" and shoved us into a supply closet. I heard a couple of guys coming down the hall. "You see that Ethiopian Draken in the cargo hold?" one of them said. The other laughed. "Yeah, it's awesome." Annabeth was still invisible. She squeezed my arm hard. I got the feeling I should know the second guy's voice. Oh, I might have done the wrong voice for those two. Worry not. I heard they got 2 more coming, the familiar voice said. "They keep arriving at this rate. Ooh, man, no contest." The voices faded down the corridor. "That was Chris Rodriguez." And Beth took off her cap and turned visible. "You remember? From Cabin 11? I sort of recalled Chris from the summer before. He's one of those undetermined campers who got stuck in the Hermes cabin because his Olympian dad or mom never claimed him. Now that I thought about it, I realized I hadn't seen Chris at camp this summer. What's another half-blood doing here? Annabeth shook her head, clearly troubled. We kept going down the corridor. I didn't need maps anymore to know I was getting close to Luke. I sensed something cold and unpleasant. The presence of evil. "Percy," Annabeth stopped suddenly. "Look." She stood in front of a glass wall, looking down into the multi-story canyon, and ran through the middle of the ship. At the bottom was the promenade, a mall full of shops. But that's not what had caught Annabeth's attention. A group of monsters had assembled in front of the candy store. A dozen Lastrygonian giants, like the ones who'd attacked me with dodgeballs, 2 hellhounds, and a few even stranger creatures. Humanoid females with twin serpent tails instead of legs. "Scythian Drachni," Annabeth whispered. "Dragon women." The monsters made a semicircle around a young guy in Greek armor who was hacking on a straw dummy. A lump formed in my throat when I realized the dummy was wearing an orange Camp Half-Blood t-shirt. As we watched, the guy in armor stabbed the dummy through its belly and ripped upwards. Straw flew everywhere. The monsters cheered and howled. Annabeth stepped away from the window. Her face was ashen. "Come on," I told her, trying to sound braver than I felt. "The sooner we find Luke, the better." At the end of the hallway were double oak doors that looked like they must lead somewhere important. When we were 13 feet away, Tyson stopped.
"Voices inside."
"You can hear that far?" I asked. Tyson closed his eyes like he was concentrating hard. Then his voice changed, becoming a husky approximation of Luke's. "The prophecy ourselves. The fools won't know which way to turn." Before I could react, Tyson's voice changed again, becoming deeper and gruffer, like the other guy we'd heard talking to Luke outside the cafeteria. You really think the old horseman is good? You really think the old horseman is gone for good?" Tyson laughed. Luke's laugh. "They can't trust him. Not with the skeleton in his closet. The poisoning of the tree was the final straw." Annabeth shivered. "Stop that, Tyson. How do you do that? It's creepy." Tyson opened his eyes and looked puzzled.
"Just listening."
"Keep going," I said. "What else are they saying?" Tyson closed his eyes again. He hissed in the gruff man's voice. "Quiet." Then Luke's voice whispering, "Are you sure?"
"Yes,"
Tyson said in the gruff voice.
"Right outside."
Too late. I realized what was happening. I just had time to say, "Run!" when the doors of the stair room burst open, and there was Luke, flanked by two hairy giants armed with javelins, their bronze tips aimed right at our chests. "Well," Luke said with a crooked smile, "if it isn't my two favorite cousins. Come right in." The stateroom was beautiful, and it was horrible. The beautiful part: huge windows curved along the back wall, looking out over the stern of the ship. Green sea and blue sky stretched all the way to the horizon. A Persian rug covered the floor. 2 plush sofas occupied the middle of the room, with a canopied bed in one corner and a mahogany dining table in the other. The table was loaded with food, pizza boxes, bottles of soda, and a stack of roast beef sandwiches on a silver platter. The horrible part: on a velvet dais at the back of the room lay a 10-foot-long golden casket, a sarcophagus engraved with ancient Greek scenes of cities in flames and heroes dying grisly deaths. Despite the sunlight streaming through the windows, the casket made the whole room feel cold. "Well," Luke said, spreading his arms proudly. "A little nicer than cabin 11, huh?" He changed since the last summer. Instead of Bermuda shorts and a t-shirt, he wore a button-down shirt, khaki pants, and leather loafers. His sandy hair, which used to be so unruly, was now clipped short. He looked like an evil male model, showing off what the fashionable college villain was wearing to Harvard this year. He still had the scar under his eye, a jagged white line from his battle with the dragon. And propped against the sofa was his magical sword, Backbiter, glinting strangely with its half-steel, half-celestial bronze blade that could kill both mortals and monsters. "Sit," he told us. He waved his hands, and 3 dining chairs scooted themselves into the center of the room. None of us sat. Luke's large friends were still pointing their javelins at us. They looked like twins, but they weren't human. They stood about 8 feet tall, for one thing, and wore only blue jeans, probably because their enormous chests were already shag-carpeted with thick brown fur. They had claws for fingernails, feet like paws. Their noses were snout-like, and their teeth were all pointed canines. "Where are my manners?" Luke said smoothly. "These are my assistants, Agrius and Aureus. Perhaps you've heard of them?" I said nothing. Despite the javelins pointed at me, it wasn't the bear twins who scared me. I'd imagined meeting Luke again many times since he'd tried to kill me last summer. I'd pictured myself boldly standing up to him, challenging him to a duel. But now that we were face to face, I could barely stop my hands from shaking. "You don't know Agrius and Aureus' story?" Luke asked. "Their mother, well, it's sad, really. Aphrodite ordered the young woman to fall in love. She refused and ran to Artemis for help. Artemis let her become one of her maiden huntresses, but Aphrodite got her revenge. She bewitched the young woman into falling in love with a bear. When Artemis found out, she abandoned the girl in disgust. Typical of the gods, wouldn't you say? They fight with one another, and the poor humans get caught in the middle. The girl's twin sons here, Agrius and Aureus, have no love for Olympus. They're like half-bloods well enough, though."
"For lunch,"
Agrius growled. His gruff voice was the one I'd heard talking with Luke earlier. His brother Aureus laughed, licking his fur-lined lips. He kept laughing like he was having an asthmatic fit until Luke and Agrius both stared at him.
Shut up, you idiot!
Agrius growled.
Go punish yourself.
Aureus whimpered. He trudged over to the corner of the room, slumped onto a stool, and banged his forehead against the dining table, making the silver plates rattle. Luke acted like this was perfectly normal behavior. He made himself comfortable on the sofa, propped his feet up on the table. Well, Percy, we let you survive another year. I hope you appreciated it. How's your mom? How's school? You poisoned Thalia's tree. Luke sighed. Right to the point, eh? Okay, sure. I poisoned the tree. So what? How could you? How could you? Annabeth sounded so angry, I thought she might explode. Thalia saved your life. Our lives. How could you dishonor her?
I didn't dishonor her, Luke snapped. The gods dishonored her. And the gods dishonored her, Annabeth. If Thalia were alive, she'd be on my side.
Liar!
If you knew what was coming, you'd understand.
I understand you want to destroy the camp, she yelled. You're a monster. Luke shook his head. The gods have blinded you. Can't you imagine a world without them, Annabeth? What good is that ancient history you study? 3,000 years of baggage. The West is rotten to the core. It has to be destroyed. Join me. We can start the world anew. We could use your intelligence, Annabeth. Because you have none of your own. His eyes narrowed. I know you, Annabeth. You deserve better than tagging along on some hopeless quest to save camp. Half-Blood Hill will be overrun by monsters within the month. The heroes who survive will have no choice but to join us or be hunted to extinction. You really want to be on the losing team? With company like this? Luke pointed at Tyson. Hey! Traveling with a Cyclops! Luke chided. Talk about dishonoring Thalia's memory. I'm surprised at you, Annabeth. You of all people. Stop it! She shouted. I didn't know what Luke was talking about, but Annabeth buried her head in her hands, like she was about to cry. Leave her alone, I said, and leave Tyson out of this. Luke laughed. Oh yeah, I heard. Your father claimed him. I must have looked surprised, because Luke smiled. Yes, Percy, I know all about that. And about your plan to find the fleece? What were those coordinates again? 30, 31, 75, 12. You see, I still have friends at camp who keep me posted. Spies, you mean? He shrugged. How many insults from your father can you stand, Percy? You think he's grateful to you? You think Poseidon cares for you any more than he cares for those monsters? Tyson clenched his fists and made a grumbling sound down in his throat. Luke just chuckled. The gods are so using you, Percy. Do you have any idea what's in store for you if you reach your 16th birthday? Has Chiron even told you the prophecy? I wanted to get in Luke's face and tell him off, but as usual, he knew just how to throw me off balance. 16th birthday? I mean, I knew Chiron had received a prophecy from the Oracle many years ago. I knew part of it was about me. But if I reached my 16th birthday, I didn't like the sound of that. I know what I need to know, I managed. Like who my enemies are. Then you're a fool. Tyson smashed the nearest dining table to splinters.
Percy's not a fool!
Before I could stop him, he charged Luke. His fists came down towards Luke's head. A double overhead blow that would have knocked a hole in titanium. But the Bear twins intercepted. They each caught one of Tyson's arms and stopped him cold. They pushed him back, and Tyson stumbled. He fell to the carpet so hard the deck shook. "Too bad, Cyclops," Luke said. "Looks like my grizzly friends together are more than a match for your strength. Maybe I should let them—" "Luke," I cut in. "Listen to me. Your father sent us." His face turned the color of pepperoni. "Don't even mention him." "He told us to take this boat. I thought it was just for a ride, but he sent us here to find you. He told me he would. He told me he won't give up on you, no matter how angry you are." "Angry?" Luke roared. "Give up on me? He abandoned me, Percy. I want Olympus destroyed. Every throne crushed to rubble. You tell Hermes it's going to happen too. Each time a half-blood joins us, the Olympians grow weaker, and we grow stronger. He grows stronger." Luke pointed to the golden sarcophagus. The box creeped me out, but I was determined not to show it. "So," I demanded, "what's so special?" Then it hit me. What might be inside the sarcophagus? The temperature in the room seemed to drop 20 degrees. "Whoa, you don't mean—" "He is reforming," Luke said. "Little by little. We're calling his life force out of the pit. With every recruit who pledges our cause, another small piece appears." "That's disgusting," Annabeth said. Luke sneered at her. "Your mother was born from Zeus's split skull, Annabeth. I wouldn't talk. Soon there will be enough of the Titan Lord so that we can make him whole again. We will piece together a new body for him. A work worthy of the forges of Hephaestus." "You're insane," Annabeth said. "Join us and you'll be rewarded. We have powerful friends, sponsors rich enough to buy this cruise ship, and much more. Percy, your mother will never have to work again. You can buy her a mansion. You can have power, fame, whatever you want. Annabeth, you can realize your dream of being an architect. You can build a monument to last 1,000 years. A temple to the lords of the next age. Go to Tartarus," she said. Luke sighed. "A shame." He picked up something that looked like a TV remote and pressed a red button. Within seconds, the door of the stateroom opened, and 2 uniformed crew members came in, armed with nightsticks. They had the same glassy-eyed look as the other mortals I'd seen. But I had a feeling this wouldn't make them any less dangerous in a fight. "Ah, good. Security," Luke said. "I'm afraid we have some stowaways." "Yes, sir," they said dreamily. Luke turned to Aureus. "It's time to feed Ethiopian Draken. Take these fools below and show them how it's done." Aureus grinned stupidly.
"Let me go too," Agrius grumbled. "My brother is worthless. That Cyclops
"Is no threat," Luke said. He glanced back at the golden casket, as if something were troubling him. "Agrius, stay here. We have important matters to discuss."
"But—"
"Aureus, don't fail me. Stay in the hold to make sure the Draken is properly fed." Aureus prodded us with his javelin and herded us out towards the stateroom. Herded us out of the stateroom, followed by the 2 human security guards. As I walked down the corridor, with Aureus's javelin poking me in the back, I thought about what Luke had just said. That the Bear twins together were a match for Tyson's strength, but maybe separately. We exited the corridor amid ships and walked across an open deck lined with lifeboats. I knew the ship well enough to realize this would be our last look at sunlight. Once we got to the other side, we'd take the elevator down into the hold, and that would be it. I looked at Tyson and said, "Now." Thank the gods he understood. He turned and smacked Orius 30 feet backwards into the swimming pool, right in the middle of the zombie tourist family. "Ah!" the kids yelled in unison. "We are not having a blast in the pool." One of the security guards drew his nightstick, but Annabeth knocked the wind out of him with a well-placed kick. The other guard ran for the nearest alarm box. "Stop him!" Annabeth yelled, but it was too late. Just before I banged him on the head with a deck chair, he hit the alarm. Red lights flashed, sirens wailed. "Lifeboat!" I yelled. We ran for the nearest one. By the time we got the cover off, monsters and more security men were swarming the deck, pushing aside tourists and waiters with trays of tropical drinks. A guy in Greek armor drew his sword and charged, but slipped in a puddle of pina colada. Lastrygonian archers assembled on the deck above us, notching arrows in their enormous bows. "How do you launch this thing?" screamed Annabeth. A hellhound leapt at me, but Tyson slammed it aside with a fire extinguisher. "Get in!" I yelled. I uncapped Riptide and slashed the first volley of arrows right out of the air. Any second, we would be overwhelmed. The lifeboat was hanging over the side of the ship, high above the water. Annabeth and Tyson were having no luck with the release pulleys. I jumped in beside them. "Hold on!" I yelled, and I cut the ropes. A shower of arrows whistled over our heads as we free-falled toward the ocean. Whew! Daring escape! MVP Tyson? MVP Tyson? Apologies. Luke is threatening, dude. His development, like, throughout the story, I like it a lot. His, like, cool nature that turns super quickly into uncontrolled and untethered rage. Or unhinged rage. It's really cool. I think his character is well written. Coleman, what's with the jars? I mean, hey, I'm not complaining. Thank you for the jars. But I will say I don't quite understand them. Tyson MVP. Dude, if those two, like, goobers hadn't been there, Tyson would have demolished Luke. Oh, yo. Heck yeah. It's a cookie jar. Of course. Frick, man. It's a nice emote. He makes them himself, right? That's really impressive. Shout outs to Cookie X Pizza. Snaps all around. If you don't know him, he's a goober, but he's a hot goober, if you know what I mean. And I love him to death. He's an entertaining streamer. I watch him from time to time, and he does a good job. Simple as that. And most importantly, he cares. That's the biggest thing for me. He puts his heart into it, as I try to do with this here stream. I do, though. I hope my I don't know. I feel like I doubt my voices like every single stream. And I think that is a thing. I tend to do that. I'll be the first to admit that. I doubt my ability to like to maintain voices, right? Like, I doubt my ability to keep them consistent and in like a, because I mean this is somewhat of a blind read, right? I haven't read the book in like 10 years. Uh but when I read something like fresh, I don't always get like the cadence correct, or how I want to, or how I want it to be like the first time. But I think, regardless, I think I do a good job. Give myself some credit. Dude, Tyson is still the best. I think, dude, that's something. I think I'm getting better with changing inflection for Tyson. Like giving him different voices than just like the usual whiny one, where it's like constantly on like a downward tone slope. Oh, frick. Thanks, Coleman. Yeah, but no, like honestly, I'm doing a good job. Heck yeah. Mitch, you're doing a good job. Thanks. That is important, guys. Remember to encourage yourself and stuff. It's a good thing. I know it brightens my mood. Because, and like this is some advice that I'll offer. For a long time, like I would hear people like tell me, like give me support and encouragement. They'd be like, "Oh, Mitch, that thing you did was epic and super cool." And I'd give them that like fake smile and like the nervous laugh. Yeah, thanks. The unsure like thank you response. But it's because like if I hear encouragement from another person, yet I don't feel the same, if I don't have the same sentiment towards myself, then it won't actually hold any weight to me. Like I'll hear it, I'll hear the encouragement, but deep down in my heart, if I'm not also agreeing with the encouragement, I won't accept it. And thus, like I'll be it'll mean less, and that's why like I try to encourage myself, because I feel like it helps me to more genuinely accept praise from others. Oh, yo, what's up, May? What's shaking? Yeah. Oh, dude, if you are reading the first one, aside from the first 5 chapters, I think, because that was before I knew that I needed to turn on like the record my VODs button. I have like from chapters 5 all the way to 22 on my YouTube channel. If you're interested in still watching like what I do, you can certainly go over there as you're reading. Otherwise, I'd still love to have you for Freaky Fridays and Sci-Fi Saturdays. We take a break from the novel side of things and do short stories. Horror on Freaky Friday and sci-fi short stories on Saturday, which is good stuff. How am I doing? All buddy. Yeah, you buddy, dude. Don't know exactly what that means, but hey. As of how I'm doing good. Yeah, doing pretty darn good. I'm trying to stream like every night. I have like a set amount of things that I try to do in a day. Like I read 2 chapters on Monday, Wednesday, Thursdays, and Sundays, and then on regardless, I have like a set schedule and things that I try to get done. Today I did a lot of work on some music, which was cool. I'm working on the Sci-Fi Saturday theme. I have the Freaky Friday theme done, but I did not have the Sci-Fi Saturday theme done last week, so working really hard on that one to make sure that's done in time. Yeah, dude. It's really, dude. I'm really excited about it. It comes from I'm planning on doing a Freaky Friday and a Sci-Fi Saturday in a couple weeks here, where I take my favorites that we've read so far and do like a best of night. Um, and and one of them was by Ray Bradbury. This one called "There Will Come Soft Rains." That incorporated a poem from Sarah Teasdale, who wrote it like a long ass time ago. But Ray Bradbury found a way to like write a short story around it in like a futuristic setting, which was incredible. And so I took like the wording of Sarah Teasdale's poem and put it into like a futuristic song, with, you know, some good old like some good old vocoding and stuff like that. So it's got that like future 80s vibe to it. Pretty excited. Yo, what's shaking, Lucas? Much love. I appreciate the raid, man. You're too good to me, man. You're too good to me. Yo. Thank you, dude. I needed some poo poo peepees in my in my chat. It's been too long since I've had some of them. But yeah, friggin' welcome, guys. We're nearing the end of this stream here, but I'm super glad that you guys showed up. Frick. We just finished chapter 9 of the Sea of Monsters. We're making our way through the Percy Jackson series. I'm doing this whole spiel, this whole like streaming thing in an effort to practice my voice acting talent. That's just kind of to give you an idea of what I do here. I read things and I in an effort to practice voice acting and hopefully introduce myself and others to cool as heck literature. But yeah. Sometimes I flash a spooky cyclops, but but that's only on certain days if I want to razzle Coleman. Hey yo, thank you for the follow. Or I think that was a follow. Whoa. Sorry for caps. Don't worry about it, dude. I actually turned that off in my Nightbot settings, like the bot that like controls stuff. For a while it was like stopping like caps spam and emote spam, but honestly, like I'm happy to have any and all like spam or otherwise in my chat. As long as it doesn't upset the people within the chat, you know, that's the only point that I would change things in that regard. Oh, are you serious? What? Oh frig. Yeah, look at that. Look at that down there. Let's go, Whale Lord. Yo, Omni. Thank you. Like, thank you bunches and bunches. Gosh, I'm talk about razzled. I am I'm pretty frazzled. Thank you, dude. That honestly means so much to me. And you've just supported like another month of what I do here. So, and that's all due to you. Thank you. Let's hear it for Omni Whale Lord. Snaps, snaps, and snaps. Yeah, dude, I sent you a text. I was actually there watching when it happened. One of like I don't know, it was one of the coolest things that I've seen on Twitch, not gonna lie. Heck yeah, snapsas. Yeah, and I sent you a text just saying like congrats, because that was such a cool moment, and I felt lucky to like be there for that big moment that you had. That was some good stuff. Yeah, and you really did like turn white as a sheet, dude. It was a tender and wholesome thing to watch. Heck yeah, dude. What the heck? Thanks for coming, guys. Do you have any questions? Can I answer got any like queries for me? As to like what I do here, or would you like to hear me read something? I didn't expect to have this raid late in the stream like this, but since we have so many people here, I would love to keep it going at least for a little while longer. If you guys want to hear a short story or possibly another chapter from the book. Yeah, dude. So during the weekdays, we've been reading through the Percy Jackson series, but on the weekends, we take a break from the novels and jump into a Freaky Friday and a Sci-Fi Saturday, where I read short stories instead of novels. Freaky Fridays, of course, is horror themed. It's a spooky night, and it's a lot of fun. I like it a lot. And I do research throughout the week to like get you the best of the bunch, hopefully. But I do blind reads, so I read right alongside you. And all the literature is new to me, just as it is to you guys. And Sci-Fi Saturday is a fun one too. We read sci-fi short stories. Often it's a lot of Ray Bradbury as of late. He does some good sci-fi, dude. he's become like a favorite of mine, like in the short story verse. Can you read a short story? I'd love to, man. Would you like to hear one of your own choosing or one of my own favorites? You got a question. How often do you read mythology stories and the sort? So, I actually had a thought that maybe I take the whole weekend for short stories, where on Fridays I change it to Fantasy Fridays, and I do Spooky Scary Saturdays, and then Sci-Fi Sundays. Since I didn't realize how much like short story literature there is in the realm of like fantasy or mythology or likewise. So I definitely had that thought, and I could give that a try this weekend, actually, if you guys might be interested. How long can it be? For you, dude, as long as you want. I can go till like a little bit past 12 here, so I'm willing to read like up to like an hour long. that would be a long one, but. So I'd say if I would put a limit on it, maybe like an hour long. It's called Picture by Vincent V. Cava. Vincent V. Cava. I haven't heard of him, but heck yeah. Shoutouts to Omni for Best Boy. Absolutely. Our previous MVP was this goober, but it is officially Omni Whale Lord. He's a horror writer. Heck yeah. Alright, let's see. Vincent V. Cava. The Picture, right? Oh, it's just called Picture. Let's see if I can find it. Oh, was it originally a creepypasta? Picture This by Vincent V. Cava. Picture This. Nice. Alright, I've got it here. Oh yeah, this is well within the realm of stuff that I would read for the weekends. Oh, well, it is a little bit longer than I expected, but hey. And if we don't, for some reason, like, finish the whole thing tonight, I'd be happy to take like a little chunk tomorrow night to finish it up, or at the very least we would finish it up on Freaky Friday, or if I do the frick I have so many plans. If we do the Fantasy Friday, it would be on Saturday. No man, this is the one that was one of your favorites, so we're gonna go with this one. Oh yo, thank you for the follow, Ali Dracondes. I hope I pronounced that right. Ali Dracondes. Or is it Ali Dracondes? Dracondes. Nice. Heck yeah. I'm actually really bad with rolling R's, oddly enough. Ali Dracondes. Gosh, dude, it's tough and rough. I remember being in Spanish class when I was like 16 in high school and feeling like so I just remember like the teacher, Miss Leland, would walk up to me and like try desperately to teach me how to do the rolling R thing, and she would just roll her R for like a minute straight, just rattling it out, and I'd be like, Miss Leland, I can't. It's a crude form of Russian. I can do Russian. I can do the Russian accent. The Russian accent. Or at least I like to think I can. Me and my comrades. Alright, without further ado, let's jump into Picture This. Alright. So, this is Picture This by Vincent V. Cava. This contains cursing, gore, and dark subjects. If you are sensitive to these types of things, please leave now. Otherwise, enjoy. Picture this. 900,000 people are reported missing every year in the United States alone. You heard that number correctly. Don't you believe me? Look it up. 900,000 people. A staggering 2,300 people are reported missing daily. Now, let's be clear. Many of these cases are solved relatively quickly, and I'm not talking about bloated corpses found floating in rivers, or dismembered bodies turning up somewhere off the Jersey Turnpike. Of the 900,000 people who are reported missing annually, around 850,000 of them are kids. Most missing children tend to fall into one of two categories: runaways who eventually return home safely, or family abductions. The latter of which occurs when either the mother or father runs off with the little ones because of a domestic dispute or divorce. As far as adults go, a large portion of missing cases typically involve people who are suffering from drug or alcohol abuse. These addicts have a tendency to go on benders, disappearing from their friends and families for days on end while they pump their bodies full of booze and illegal narcotics. A surprisingly high number of reports are concerning senior citizens suffering from dementia or Alzheimer's. You'd be surprised how often they wander away from their caretakers and get lost. Usually it doesn't take very long for the police to locate the disoriented old-timer and bring them back home to the nursing facility. Given these facts, we see the number of people, both children and adults, who are abducted by strangers is actually relatively small. Only about 150 of these kinds of abductions are estimated to occur in the United States annually. Now, picture this. You were an artist, a painter who specialized in Impressionism. You loved art all your life. You saw a coffee table book when you were 12 years old that had a picture of Blue Dancers by Edgar Degas, and you couldn't look away from it. You were mesmerized by the colors, the brush strokes, the way the girls in the painting contorted their bodies. To you, they didn't even look like dancers. They were a meadow of morning glories swaying in a gentle breeze. You knew right then and there that you wanted to create something as gorgeous and spellbinding as that picture. You studied the greats, Renoir, Degas, Cézanne, and of course, Monet. When you turned 15, you started taking art classes after school at the local community college, but you never shared your passion with anyone, not even your closest friends and family. You were afraid of what they might say, What if they laughed at you? What if they told you that your paintings were sloppy or ugly? What if they told you that you didn't have talent, or that you never created your own blue dancers, or that you'd never create your own blue dancers one day? So, you hid your passion from everyone you knew. Whenever you finished a piece, you tossed it in the garbage, because seeing your art in a dumpster was better than the possibility of hearing your friends make fun of it. You wanted to study art in college, but society told you that only morons do that. Instead, you opted for an engineering degree. Your parents were happy. You graduated from school and got a job where you sat in a cubicle and made $55,000 per year. You spent all day, every day, musing about what it would be like to wake up each morning and do nothing but paint. You tried to keep up with your art, but you never had the time. Your boss asked you to work weekends every chance he got. And when you did have a second to yourself, you were too tired to do anything but watch TV or surf the web. You started to hate yourself for being so spineless, for not pursuing the thing in life that ever made you feel good. You fell into a depression. Picture this. An estimated 1 in 10 adults suffer from depression. That means there are at least 31 million people in the United States who feel lost, who feel hopeless, who feel like the world would be a better place without them, and you were one of those people. You wore a mask in front of your friends and family. That part was easy. You had been hiding your passion from them all your life. You could hide your depression too. Nobody at work could see how much you were hurting. But when you got home, you lay in bed and you cried. You thought about downing an entire bottle of aspirin, but you were afraid of what people would say if you survived. You stood on the edge of your bathtub with one end of a belt loop around your neck and the other fastened to the metal rod of your shower curtain while you weighed the pros and cons of suicide. You spent hours surfing the internet, visiting forums, looking for a way to save yourself. You even went so far as to post questions anonymously, pleading for help. Then, you got the piece of advice that you believed you were searching for. From Reddit, of all places, a website famous for stupid cat pictures and bastardizing the word meme. It came in the form of a comment in a thread you made about feeling suicidal. You didn't see the commenter's username. In fact, you were so excited after reading their advice that you closed your browser's window before checking where it came from. It didn't matter who they were in real life anyways. As far as you were concerned, those words were sent straight to you from your guardian angel, watching over from heaven. Try finding a creative outlet. Your web surfing savior said, I picked up painting as a means to channel my depression. Whenever I'm feeling down, I grab a brush and get to work. It helps to serve as a fantastic distraction. So, picture this. You took that guardian angel's advice and ran with it. You swore off suicide, called your mom and dad, and told them you loved them. The very next morning you woke up and headed to the library, where you spent the entire day reading about your favorite artists, the painters you had idolized your entire life. For hours, you looked at photos of their works, and it made you feel young again. Then you stumbled upon a book with a picture of blue dancers, and you found yourself awestruck, just like the time when you were 12. It was that moment you decided to quit your job and follow your dreams. Your mom and dad weren't happy, but they understood when you told them about your depression. They always thought art was just a mild hobby and had never actually seen one of your finished paintings before. It took all the courage you could muster to show them a piece you prepared for them. After all, it was more than just a picture to you. It was your heart. your dreams. It was a piece of your soul. It went better than you expected. The painting made your dad smile and your mother tear up. Since you had no job, they let you move back in, turn your room into a studio until you could figure things out. And picture this. You turned back to the internet for advice. Only this time, you weren't looking for someone to talk you off a ledge. You wanted tips on color blending and assistance on applying primer. You started posting pictures of your work to various forums looking for guidance. But you got more than you bargained for. You began receiving compliments. Total strangers telling you how much they loved your art. A few people even commissioned pieces from you. You sold your first painting for $300 to a newlywed couple in Minnesota who said your art would be perfect in their new home. It was surreal. All you ever wanted to do was paint, and now people were paying you for it. You opened an online store, started a blog, and even built a website with links to all your social media accounts. You began to rack up followers on Facebook and Twitter. A couple of your paintings were blogged around the internet thousands of times. An art enthusiast magazine even did a feature on one of your pieces. It wasn't on the cover or anything, but it was an honor just to get a tiny blurb. Eventually, you made enough money to move out of your parents' house and get a small apartment of your own. You certainly weren't rich, but you got to wake up and do nothing but paint every day, just like you always dreamed. One morning, you opened your eyes to see a half-finished, commissioned piece staring back at you from across the room. Rays of early morning sunshine shimmered in through the window, falling on the partially completed painting. It glimmered in the daylight. You thought about how lost you would have been if not for that guardian angel on the internet who convinced you to paint your sadness away. You smiled to yourself. The first time in a long time that it wasn't forced, because you knew that you were finally happy. But picture this. When one begins to receive admirers, they also start to attract critics. People who question how or why you got to where you were in your career. Some of them were jealous. They wanted what you had. Many of them were artists in their own right who didn't receive nearly the amount of attention you got. You found their hate silly. After all, it's not like your paintings were touring museums around the country. You were barely scraping by. But they couldn't support themselves with their art, so they hated you. Some of your other detractors weren't artists at all. They were trolls who couldn't stand seeing another person happy, so they did their best to knock you down a peg. They used the cloak of anonymity to message you through Twitter just to call you names. They told you that your work was crap. But when they said that, they weren't just insulting your paintings. They were insulting you. Remember, your art was a reflection of your heart, your dreams. It was a piece of your soul, and these sorry excuses for human beings hiding behind idiotic user handles were shitting all over it. And then something strange happened. You no longer heard the praise and the compliments. They were still there, but almost muffled in a way, suffocated and drowned out by a vocal minority who only wanted to see you fail. You fought to prove yourself, to paint something that would make even your most zealous hecklers change their minds about you. But the more of your heart you poured into your work, the harsher their words became. The closer you got to creating your very own blue dancers, the more hate and vitriol they spewed at you. It began to consume you. It was all you could think about. Picture this. Hacking isn't nearly as difficult as Hollywood would have you believe it is. You don't need to be a zit-faced computer whiz that spends 18 hours a day in a dark basement eating Cheetos and drinking Mountain Dew to learn how to do it. You don't even need to know how to get around firewalls or disassemble code. All you need is patience. Patience and the understanding that people, even anonymous internet trolls, get a little too comfortable and give away personal information even without thinking about it. Now picture this. The haters kept coming for you. Every time you posted a picture of your work or announced another sale on Facebook, there they were, popping up like a rash of pus-filled herpes. One commenter in particular really got under your skin. His username was DarkPainter97, and every remark he made on your art blog was rude and spiteful. Overrated, he called you. Unoriginal and uninspired as well. You could see the resentment seething out from every comment he left underneath your posts. You had grown sick of his cyberbullying. Part of you wanted to see what this keyboard warrior looked like in real life. So without thinking, you clicked on his username. The link directed you to the profile page of his blog, but he didn't have any pictures uploaded to it. However, a caption in the About section caught your eye. It said, "Follow me on Twitter, @DarkPainter97. You checked out his Twitter account to see if this anonymous jackass had posted any photos of himself. He hadn't, and his profile picture was just some stupid cartoon character. But you did notice he was very active on his account. He went back and forth, tweeting jokes with one particular user quite frequently. A teenager whose user handle included his real name with a very clear face pic. They appeared to be good friends. You realized then that the 97 in Dark Painter 97 was most likely a reference to the year your tormentor was born. It made sense. It takes a certain amount of immaturity and free time to cyberbully someone, and teenage boys have both of those in spades. You performed a Facebook search of his friend's name and found him pretty easily. His profile page had the privacy functions disabled, so it wasn't hard to poke around. This teenager only had about 125 friends on Facebook, so you began filtering through his list, looking for boys who were born in the year 1997. It only took about an hour of sifting through profile pages until you found something that struck a chord with you. It was a boy who fit the bill. He was a smarmy little weasel who looked like he hadn't been outside a day in his life. Everything about his face irked you, from his bird's beak of a nose to the pair of bulky camouflage print Oakley sunglasses he was wearing in his profile pic. You wanted so badly to smash his smug smile into paste. Then, you looked at the info section of his page, and you felt the light bulb in your head slowly begin to brighten. Likes, gaming, manga, and painting. Okay, that's a check. But liking to paint doesn't automatically make him the culprit. Birthday, June 26th, 1997. Double check. And of course, follow my art blog, @DarkPainter97. Checkmate, bitch. You had him. You know what that insufferable little troll looked like, where he lived, you even knew what high school he went to. In just over an hour and a half, you had learned everything you could ever want to know about him. But what were you going to do with your newfound information? According to his Facebook, he lived a state away. That's a long way to go just to tell someone off. You told yourself that driving over state lines for the sole purpose of yelling at some idiot kid was crazy. But you couldn't stop yourself. It was like someone else had taken control of your body. Before you knew it, you were on the interstate, halfway between the teenager's hometown and your apartment. You stopped off for a burger when you hit his country and looked his parents' information up on your cell phone. Finding their home address was easy. The time was around 4 p.m. when you pulled up to his house. According to their Facebook pages, his mom and dad both worked 9 to 5s, so you figured they wouldn't be home yet. You could see the little brat through the window, fiddling around on his computer, probably leaving another disparaging comment on the latest picture you uploaded to your blog. Either that or looking at porn. Things had worked out too perfectly for you. You'd come too far not to give him a piece of your mind, so you pulled your car into the driveway and knocked on the front door. You could tell he was confused when he answered it. He had no idea who you were, which was something you found funny. You had spent as much time as he did harassing someone on the internet. Or if you had spent as much time as he did harassing someone on the internet, you figured you'd at least recognize them if they were standing at your front door. You opened your mouth to speak. You even pointed an accusatory finger at him, but his entitled little face made you so damn angry. You blacked out. When you came to your senses, you were standing over him in the foyer. Now, the arrogant look on his face was gone. Instead, it appeared as if a cherry bomb had exploded in it. His nose had been mushed into pulp, and his left eye was completely swollen shut. You were taken aback with yourself. How had it happened? You weren't even a violent person. In fact, you had never planned on causing the kid any sort of physical harm. You looked at the grandfather clock against the wall. It was 4:30. Where had the time gone? Who knew how long you had, or who knew how long you had before his parents got home? Charges started to rattle off in your mind. Aggravated assault of a minor, burglary, who knows, maybe even attempted murder. If they caught you, then you'd do the next 15 years in prison for sure. Goodbye art career. Then you had another thought. If you just ran off, the snotty little shit might be able to identify you once he came to. So you panicked. You slung his unconscious body over your shoulder and carried him outside to your car. Lady Luck must have been on your side, because there was no one else in sight. You dumped him in your trunk and backed out of the driveway as fast as you could before speeding off to make your getaway. Only about 150 people get abducted by strangers in the United States annually. Now, this kid was one of them, and he was locked in the back of your trunk. Picture this. 1 in every 15,000 people is murdered in the USA each year. Doesn't that number sound high? It's true, though. Don't you believe me? Look it up. 1 in every 15,000 people. Calculate those stats over a 75-year lifespan, and that means there is a 1 in 200 chance that someone will try to kill you. It's a terrifying thought, really. Pardon me. It's a terrifying thought, really. In comparison, your chances of getting hit by a car are only 1 in 600, which means you're 3 times more likely to get gutted by a knife-wielding maniac or shot by a jaded ex-lover than you are to get run over by a minivan whose driver was texting while speeding through an intersection. Now, picture this. You made it inside your apartment with the kid. It was late, so you were able to smuggle him up to your unit under the cover of darkness. To your knowledge, no one had seen you. You were safe for the moment, but you were sick to your stomach about what had transpired. You remembered the warm, fuzzy feeling you got after reading the advice of your guardian angel, and you were pretty sure the mixture of emotions that were now brewing inside you was the exact opposite. You wondered what kind of guidance that anonymous angel of the internet would give you this time. But what were you going to do? Start a thread on Reddit about it? TIFU by assaulting and kidnapping a minor. The kid was bleeding profusely from the mutilated chunk of flesh hanging off his face that used to be a nose. You placed him in your bathtub to prevent him from gushing all over the floor of your apartment while you thought about how to rectify the situation. Tears began to well up in your eyes once you realized how screwed you were. You were no criminal. You were an artist. But artists don't beat their critics to within an inch of their lives. "I'm sorry," you cried out to the kid, whose body, a broken pile of pulverized meat, lay motionless in your tub. I never meant for this to happen." You feared he would die in your bathroom before you could muster up the courage to call an ambulance. You knew you had made a terrible mistake and needed to own up to it, but you were so afraid of going to prison. Between your sobs, you heard a whimper. You peered up to see the kid begin to stir. The eye that wasn't swollen shut made contact with yours. His sclera was as red as a dog's dick, and you could tell he was straining to focus, but he was staring right at you. The teenager's whimpers transformed into something that resembled a low gurgle, almost as if he was drowning on the blood that had pooled in the back of his throat. But you realized he wasn't drowning. He was laughing, causing your concerns to give way to confusion. He forced out a few grunts in an effort to say something, his voice whistling through the broken teeth, jagged shards of bone that you had shattered with your fists. "You're that fucking shitty artist, aren't you?" he groaned. His gurgling laugh began again, and you understood it was directed at you. He had won. With nothing but an internet modem and a laptop, he had successfully derailed your career, and he knew it too. You were going to spend the rest of your life in prison. With that thought, a fiery rage swelled inside your chest. You didn't deserve what this little shit had done to you. All you wanted to do was make art, to paint your own blue dancers, and this entitled piece of trash had taken it away from you. There's no blacking out the second time. You were fully aware of what you were doing when you mounted his body and began to pummel his face. With each blow, you could feel his cheekbones collapse more and more underneath your knuckles. You clawed at his eyes like a rabies-stricken animal, then forced your hands inside his mouth and pulled at his jaw, popping it from its hinges. And when your arms got sore, you stood up and let your boots take a turn at the kid's cranium. Picture this. It takes 200 pounds of pressure to crush a human skull. By the time you had finished wailing away on the teenager, his head looked like a plate of pink and purple mashed potatoes. 1 in every 15,000 people in the United States is murdered every year. And now, the kid whose brains were currently spilling out down your bathtub's drain was the newest casualty of that statistic. You washed his blood off your hands in the sink and tried to calm down a bit. After looking back at the headless corpse in your tub, you realized you were a little frightened of yourself. But it wasn't because you had just murdered a teenager in cold blood. It was the sensation of ecstasy washing over your body that worried you. It felt amazing. Like you had just lived out a fantasy. Not a sexual one. Stomping the kid's skull in didn't get you off. But it was more than a little empowering. The snotty turd deserved everything he got. But now, you had a new problem on your hands. It didn't take a criminal mastermind to know that keeping the kid's body in your tub was a bad idea. But getting rid of it wasn't as simple as chucking it down the trash chute. You were an artist, though, and artists have creative minds. So you did what creative minds do. You got creative. Picture this. On average, 75 people are arrested in the United States for having sex with the deceased every year. Don't believe me? Look it up. 75 people. This is especially concerning considering there are 4 states, Louisiana, Kentucky, Oklahoma, and North Carolina, where necrophilia isn't even against the law. Of the 75 people arrested for making love to the dead annually, nearly half of them work in mortuaries. Given these facts, one can assume that funeral homes are a magnet for necrophiliacs. It makes sense when you think about it. After all, it seems like the dream job for someone who indulges in that kind of fetish. Many psychologists believe that only a small fraction of these people actually have sexual attractions to dead bodies. Most engage in necrophilia due to social anxieties. It's the fear of rejection or the body's inability to perform under pressure that causes people to stray down this path. Corpses can't laugh at the size of your penis or roll their eyes if you can't get it up. So people find comfort and safety in the dead. It is for that reason that a staggering 94% of necrophiliacs are men. Just like any sexual fetish, necrophilia has its own dark little community on the internet. If one looks hard enough, they'll be able to find forums where users anonymously trade pics and tell stories of their latest sexual conquests. Well, I say anonymously, but as I explained before, when it comes to the internet, people have a tendency to get a little too comfortable and give away their personal information without even thinking about it. So picture this. You opened up your laptop and did a little digging. Google is magic. Within minutes, you were pursuing a forum full of cadaver-loving freaks. An hour or two of browsing, and you stumbled upon a thread that sparked your interest. In an off-topic, thrown-away comment, one of the perverts claimed to regularly visit a pizza joint not more than 5 miles from your apartment before engaging in his morbid sexcapades. After scanning his comment history, you saw that he often bragged about about how his job supplied him with an endless stream of what he called his real love dolls. It turned out he was a mortician who really enjoyed the alone time he spent with the corpses he was supposed to be beautifying. You created an account and messaged him, claiming to be a 19-year-old girl who was really into watching guys screw stiffs. When he asked for verification, you scrounged up some pictures of your friend's little sister and sent them to him. People are gullible when they want to believe something, and this guy really wanted to believe that a cute co-ed was interested in perverts who fuck dead bodies. He sent you a face pic. When you performed a reverse image search, it directed you right to his Facebook. The idiot had even messaged you his profile picture. His Facebook page did indeed confirm that he was a mortician, and even listed the name of the funeral home he worked in. You smiled to yourself when, after looking the place up, you read that it had a crematorium. However, there was something else you found out about after digging through his information, something you found very useful. The pervert had a family too, a wife and an 11-year-old son. You sweet-talked the mortician through the night, encouraging him to tell you about the disgusting things he does to newly arrived cadavers. He said that he wanted to fuck you on top of them. Turns out he was one of the few necrophiliacs that didn't have a fear of performing. This sicko was just genuinely attracted to dead bodies. You told him all the nasty things you knew he wanted to hear. When you asked for a dick pic, he was more than happy to oblige. The picture he sent you was a full-body nude with his erect cock and face clearly visible in the frame. The two of you made plans to meet up at the mortuary after hours for a little ménage à trois. Ménage à trois, with a 24-year-old model who had recently died from a coke overdose. For some reason, he always seemed really excited to tell you how his real love dolls had passed. You assumed it was part of the fetish. You showed up at the funeral home the following evening, but a manila folder full of hard evidence. With a manila folder full of hard evidence. He broke down and started crying when you explained to him that he'd been duped. You presented him with the photos he sent you and explained to him that you had screenshots of the previous night's conversation saved and backed up. The mortician begged you not to show his wife. Apparently she had caught him once on top of a 17-year-old girl who had perished in a car wreck. His wife was pregnant at the time and only stayed with the mortician for the baby's sake. But she had informed him that if she ever found out he was doing it again, she'd call the cops and take his son away from him forever. He tried to make you go away by writing you a check, but you refused the bribe. You hadn't come for money. You explained that you needed him to help you make a body disappear. The plan was simple. The funeral home had a crematorium, and all you needed was access to it. The mortician reluctantly agreed to help you in exchange for keeping his revolting secret under wraps, so the two of you headed out to your car and hoisted an oversized duffel bag containing Dark Painter 97's body out of your trunk. You carried it inside, but when you asked the mortician to direct you to the crematorium, he waved his hand.
I've got it from here,
he told you. You shot him a suspicious look and informed him that if he was planning on going to the police, your evidence would be in his wife's inbox the next day.
Don't worry, he said. You're safe. The kid will be ashes by the end of the night.
He asked you how the teenager died, so you told him the story.
Wow. I get murders from time to time, but that sounds especially brutal.
He responded after hearing your grisly tale. When you were finished, you thanked him for his help and started out the door.
No, thank you, he said.
His remark left you puzzled. It wasn't until after you started your car and pulled out of the parking lot that you realized what the mortician was showing his appreciation for. You had delivered him a new play toy, a real love doll, and he was going to have some fun with it before he sent it off to the incinerator. Picture this. Roughly 85% of the country's population has access to the internet. That means approximately 270 million people in the United States alone are connected to the World Wide Web. Of that 270 million, a little over half have profiles on active social networking sites, which makes the number of people using Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat, Tinder, and all the other flavors of the week tally somewhere around 135 million. You were one of the 135 million. So what did you do after having just gotten away with a murder? You hopped on social media to help yourself forget about the past couple days. The problem was images of Dark Painter 97's caved-in skull kept flashing through your mind. Even worse, you couldn't help but picture what the perverted mortician was most likely doing to the particularly headless cadaver you had brought him. Your thoughts turned back to your guardian angel. You hadn't logged back into your Reddit account since that hero of the internet had rescued you from your depression. It wasn't necessary. Up until a few hours ago, you had believed yourself to be relatively happy. But the day had been traumatic, so you decided to check in on the cyberspace Superman to see if he was still crusading around, searching for lost souls to save. It took a minute before you remembered your password, but once you logged in, you navigated the site to find the old suicide thread you had made. It stung more than you thought it would to reread the post. It reminded you how black the world seemed back then. You scrolled down the thread, looking for your guardian angel, the one person on the planet who seemed to understand you. The comment was still there, and you began to read it, hoping that you would again be able to pull something useful from the sage advice that had once saved your life. But you stopped halfway through. You had seen something that made your heart rise in your throat, because for the very first time, you had read your guardian angel's username. Dark Painter 97. You rubbed your eyes and looked again, just to make sure you weren't hallucinating. But the text on your monitor hadn't changed. You came to a realization that made you feel physically ill. Approximately 135 million Americans are active on social media sites, and you had murdered the only one that had given you a reason to wake up in the morning. It was utterly ridiculous. How could a human being be so sympathetic and understanding one day and such an obnoxious little twat the next? It was like a bad dream. You felt as if a war for your sanity was being waged inside your head. Part of you wanted to laugh at the irony of the situation. Another part of you wanted to cry. You ended up spending the entire evening staring at the unfinished piece leaning up against the wall of your apartment, not even able to remember whom you were even painting it for. Did it matter? It was like the whole damn world had lied to you. It wasn't until morning that reality started to sink in. Perhaps the sun helped to burn off the fog that was being shrouded in your brain since your revelation. But for whatever reason, you no longer felt helpless. You realized that all this time, you had been using your guardian angel as a crutch, leaning on their words of wisdom whenever you felt like you couldn't stand on your own. Unfortunately, it turned out you had been worshipping a false idol. In reality, your champion had been a chump all along, just another jealous wannabe who only cared about seeing you fall. The sick part was, you knew Dark Painter 97 was just the tip of the iceberg. You had other critics, worse ones, and they deserved everything he got, maybe even more. That strange feeling of ecstasy had once again returned, only this time it didn't make you feel frightened. It made you feel unstoppable. Picture this. Every avalanche starts with a single snowflake. Contemplate that for a second. It's a crazy thought, but it's absolutely true. The fact that a force so deadly and dangerous can come from something so innocent and harmless is remarkable. When you first started snooping around that annoying internet troll's Twitter account, you couldn't have had any idea what it would lead to. There was no way to predict that mere hours later you'd be passing off his headless corpse to a mortician with a fetish for the dead. There was also no way to anticipate the other murders it would lead to. But after discovering that you had killed your guardian angel, you felt like there was no point in simply ignoring the rest of your critics. So you sought them out and made them pay for every hurtful comment they ever messaged you. You started with those who only lived a day's drive away. Like a predator hunting its prey, you stalk them, laying in wait for the perfect time to strike. Their deaths were usually agonizing ones. You made sure that each and every one of your victims suffered painfully. The mortician was in your back pocket. You still had the ability to blackmail him. He feigned frustration with his predicament, but both of you knew he was happy with the arrangement. After about the third or fourth love doll you brought him, he began making requests.
I'd really appreciate it if the next one you brought in, didn't have teeth,
he would say to you.
Can you give me someone who maybe has a genetic birth defect?
You entertained his bizarre fetish. After all, it didn't matter to you what happened to the bodies you were bringing in, as long as they were a pile of ashes in the morning. The mortician had a network of people like him, hardcore cadaver humpers across the country. Many of them also worked in funeral homes and had access to their own crematoriums. Things probably started to snowball out of control when you found yourself going on vacation just to off another critic. Painting had become secondary to you. It no longer thrilled you the way murder did. You only kept doing it and posting photos to the internet as a means to find more people to kill. You no longer strove for perfection in your art. Blue dancers had drifted further away than ever. You started to purposefully make mistakes in order to attract more negative opinions. After a while, you didn't even care if the people you were hunting were offering genuine constructive criticism or not. No one was safe. But even an avalanche finally reaches the bottom of the mountain. One day, a detective showed up at your apartment and started asking questions. He was starting to connect the disappearance of 2 of the people you had killed. You could tell by the look in his eyes that he didn't consider you a suspect yet, but you knew that he was smart. It would only be a matter of time before he put the pieces of the puzzle together and realized what you had done. So picture this. You packed up your belongings, emptied your bank account, and left town that night. You didn't want to rot in prison, so you moved to the other side of the country and changed your name. With a haircut and a pair of colored contact lenses. You always wanted hazel eyes, after all. You started a new life for yourself. In a few days, you would read about yourself in the news. An up-and-coming painter who suddenly disappeared without a trace. 900,000 people are reported missing every year. And now, you were one of them. A few days after that, you were the main suspect in the deaths of 2 people that detective had questioned you about. The cops were never going to find you, though. You were too smart for them. But there was a problem. People still needed to die. Laying low for the rest of your life just wasn't an option. But you knew the police would be looking for a painter, so you picked up a new type of art, one that was sure to attract its fair share of critics. Writing. Given your actual motives, you figured horror was an appropriate genre to publish in. You created new social media accounts under your fake name, and even used photos of a guy you went to high school with who had died in a motorcycle accident for your profile pics. People seemed to enjoy the stories you posted on the internet, and after a little while, you began to get popular. Your tales were read on forums, translated into other languages. Some of them even received hundreds of thousands of views when narrated on YouTube. Now that your work had become well known, you began to do little things that you knew would encourage criticism. You used run-on sentences and purposefully made small grammatical mistakes in hopes that someone would try to correct you. From time to time, you even wrote stories in a second-person narrative, knowing full well just how polarizing it can be for readers. You stayed connected to the mortician and his network of perverted funeral workers. Your trap had been set, and now all you had to do was lie in wait for critics to come along who couldn't resist tearing your work to pieces. And along they came. Like a moth to a light bulb, people were drawn to the flaws you had engineered into your writing. They pointed them out under the cover of anonymity, but the masks they wore were as flimsy as papier-mâché. There was no privacy anymore, no way to truly remain faceless. If someone wants to dig hard enough, they can learn as much about you as your closest and dearest friends. So let me ask you a question. One thing I'm sure a lot of you will laugh off once you realize whom this story is about, but one that you'd be wise to take very, very seriously next time you post to the internet. Are you picturing it yet? Well, hot dog. Are you picturing it? I mean, it's hard not to. The man or woman is quite descriptive. That was really good, though. My word. Vincent V. Cava. That sounds like a name somebody would switch to. You'd always wanted hazel eyes. The ending, man. That's really good. I pray I did it justice. That was really good. I'm gonna assume that it's not a real telling, right? I kind of feel silly for asking that even, but it's not an actual account, right? Thank you, Kratos. Much obliged. Okay, thought so. Thank you for confirming, Omni, though. Yeah, for all you know. Yeah, all I'm saying, picture this. Dang, dude. He does stuff like this a lot. He has other works. Please tell me he's got other works. Now that's exciting. I've been looking for another reliable horror writer. Another one that was a creepypasta that I'd say was as good as this one, if not maybe better. No, I'd say this one was better, but it was nearly as good. Have you guys read Psychosis? Wait, I'm actually curious. That one's not by him as well, is it? No, okay. I was about to say that would be wicked. Yeah, you know Psychosis. Good. Yeah, Psychosis was a good one. Was recommended by my good buddy Keitanamore. I'd say the other ones that I've enjoyed from the Horror Nights have been the the H.P. Lovecraft ones. I love the way I don't know. His writing is poetic in like a existential dread kind of way, you know? Some good stuff. The Hanging Stranger was a good one. I am trying to compile like the best of the bunch, so that I can have a best of night one of these days. This one may actually go with it. Definitely gonna be bookmarking it, plopping it in the horror file. Hey! Thank you for the follow, Kyra. Am I saying that right? Kiratus? Kyratus. Kiratus. Right on. I appreciate it, man. Yeah, we're getting there. I'm still a fair ways away from the whole affiliate thing. Is that what they call it? But regardless, every follow helps, and I'm immensely grateful. And Omni Whale Lord, dude, thanks again, both for the suggestion, which was incredible, by the way, and for the financial support. You know, nobody is, you know, it's something that you don't have to do, but it certainly helps, yeah, like make the stream better and help me pursue what I do. I should read Borrasca, not on stream, but in your own time. Is it too long for a stream? Borrasca. Oh yeah. Oh wow. Dang, this one is long. It's got 20 chapters. It's nearly as long as the Percy Jackson books we read. Heck yeah. Is it another spooky one? I am grateful that I don't. But I appreciate that warning, by the way. Thank you. Nice. Yeah. So that's probably why it would be best not to read it on stream. Yeah. Yeah, I wonder. Like some of these horror stories do have some rough topics, like some stuff that could probably bring up some unpleasant memories in people's minds. That's why at the beginning I ought to like throw up a warning like each time. Like it was really nice of Picture This to have that like that little warning. Like not many like horror short stories even have that. Like the little, this contains cursing, gore, and dark subjects. If you are sensitive to these types of things, please leave. It's a good thing to do. You made this story feel too real for me. I'm gonna have to dodge horror nights, aka you're great at this. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I do my best to bring the words to life and do them justice. That's why like I think a fantasy night would be good too. Because even the sci-fi nights can get a little creepy sometimes. And I want to do some hero voices. And some gabbling voices. I will give it a read too. Nice. Definitely do. Kriatas. I'd make sure to put trigger warnings in the title of Horror Nights. Yeah. It's weird as I have a feeling that it may not have happened, but something maybe similar. I mean, I don't doubt it that an event like this has probably occurred, like in human history. Unfortunately. And I shudder to think that this would give any of the, what was it, 135 million people browsing the web any ideas. But Mr. Creepypasta did a great 5-hour reading of it. Worked with me for days because it was too real. It's too realistic. Yeah, I'd like to maybe do stuff like that too, where I record something like off stream, in an effort to like do an actual project, you know, like and edit it together and maybe add like my own music and stuff, like to bring it to life even more. Normally on horror nights, I put some like horror ambience on as well, so it tends to bring in the chills down your spine a little more promptly. Yeah, man. Eesh. Yeah, I know last let's see, last horror night, which ones did we read? I read a number of them. Oh, the Empty House by Algernon Blackwood. That was a good one. I may have another recommendation for a horror book. Nice, definitely shoot it at me. Got to go, but have a good night, everybody. And it was pretty cool stream. It was a pretty cool stream, Toe. Thanks, May. I appreciate it. And thanks for coming along. Remember to spread the merriment as you go through your day tomorrow. And maybe consider coming by on the weekend. It's called Pen Pal. Oh yeah, frick. I forget to like plug stuff. Also, if you want to, yeah, the Discord and my Twitter are the best ways to be informed about like when I'm streaming, because it does a little post anytime I start to stream on both of those. And I am trying to like grow the community in my Discord. It hasn't been super active, but it'd be really neat like to see it blossom. It is a meadow after all. Into a community of literature buffs and cool rad fellas and fellettes. And everything between. Heck yeah. Thanks Lucas. I appreciate it, dude. Yeah, mosey down into the meadow if you feel like joining the merriment. Literature is nice, dude. Yeah. Enough said. Literature is sweet. I feel like I don't know, like I wanted to, like part of why I did this whole stream like in general was to like introduce myself to new literature and revisit like literature that I'm nostalgic for. Which isn't like, I don't know, there aren't like a ton of books that left a huge impact on me when I was younger, but the ones that did leave an impact left a resounding impact, you know? I feel like literature, like any media, like hear me out, right? There's a bunch of different types of media, right? And if we don't explore each one, and I feel in each one there are the golden gooses of the bunch, right? And that's why I feel each media source is something to be explored, because there's bound to be a golden goose within each one. And I feel literature definitely has that too. Not all of them are going to be super duper amazing and sublime, but that's all right too. And I hope I do them justice. Honestly, I do. I appreciate the literature too, just as like a means to, like, I'm immensely grateful for the freaking writers and stuff. They're helping me a bunch, like with my practice. Yeah, I loved the story, man. It was a good one, a chilling one. I think to be fair, I think Psychosis left me more uh for lack of a better term, messed up by the end. Um, that one, like, I really needed like a something to like take me out of it afterwards. This one was just as good and just as chilling, but thankfully, like, it didn't strike home as hard as the other one, except for the suicide part. That, I mean, I've had my days. In the past, 2 years ago to be precise. It's a personal favorite. You did super well. I think horror has the biggest disparity between good and bad. Yeah, I agree. And it's interesting because like I don't know, like horror is just a weird like genre in general to me, because in order for one to make like a good horror thing, it's got to be horrifying, you know? Which most of the time, like with stories and whatnot, you want it to be good. But in horror, it's got to be bad, if you know what I mean. Because it's like comedy. It exists to purely create a genuine emotional reaction. Man, sure enough. Yeah, like, most of the time, I'll like, by the end of something, I'll be like, okay, what morals class did we learn from this story? But whenever I finish horror stories, it tends to be that way. Like, it just elicits an emotional reaction from me, instead of there being like a legitimate lesson or anything. It did seem you got a little teary halfway through. I may have just been too affected by the story, though, so take my stuff with a grain of salt. Never ask what what hoe dogs. What is it? I know you said not to ask, but what is a hoe dog? And if it does, it succeeds in being a horror story, and it scares you. Sure enough, man. You're a smart lad. You know that? They feel the same way. They elicit an emotion. Hot dogs, much like horror stories. I'm gonna start using that, what is that? Analogy? Yeah, I'm gonna start using that analogy. Studied horror films at university. Nice. I went to UNCSA for a year, in pursuit of film, specifically animation. I did like a little bit of study with horror, but when I was 18, like I've only recently started to like approach horror. Most of the time, it's not my thing. But for some reason, if I'm the one like reading it, and if I'm the one acting it out, I don't know, it's a little bit easier for me to approach. For some reason, I got into horror as I picked up Stephen King books ages ago. King is so friggin' good. Yeah, dude, we read what's that one? It was on my first Freaky Friday that we read a short story by the King himself. Which one it called, though? Sorry, I'm trying to find it. Did I not save it? What? It was something, it was the one about the couple who are driving like and need to stop by like a little rest stop to like buy a ball for some kid's birthday, and they argue and kind of do their normal like bickering, and then the lady dies like when she goes into the store just to pick up like some cigarettes for the husband, like, and like a plastic bouncy ball. Like nothing out of the ordinary, and she like has a heart attack and dies or something, and it's just the recounting of like, I don't know, it just like covers that concept of like Terrible things can happen at any time. That's why we ought to make the most of every moment. His prose is so readable. Heck yeah. I honestly ought to. I could stand to pick up like one of his books. I picked up a random book he did, and I started reading it at the library, despite being arguably over descriptive. Yeah, that's okay with me though. I love some good description. It fills the ambience, right? Like, am I wrong? Like it sets the tone. He can be, though, I feel like that can contribute how we perceive and visualize it. Oh yeah, you feel bad for her family. No doubt, no doubt. And it was a really cool tale too. Carrie's my favorite by him. Carrie was by the king? Wait, like you're talking about the Carrie, right? It was his first book. Shoot, dude. Yeah. That's a really freaking good one. I don't know if it's any different like from the play or the musical. Musical? Play? Musical. Yeah. Sorry, I'm saving Baraska. Bookmarking it. And I need to save. Picture this. Okay. Wait, no. There's a. No, not a musical. I weirdly have a memory of like my high school doing it, but in musical form. Yeah, dude. Yeah, Frick Coleman, you know. I knew it. Yeah, there's a musical adaptation. Dude, it's not appropriate whatsoever. Yeah, no, it's about a girl being abused. In fact, sorry, I'm kind of laughing like out of nerves. See, there I go again. It's about a girl being abused. Not cool. Yeah, dude, the part with the pig's blood, you know what I'm talking about, right? That part is messed up. God, what would possess kids to do that to someone? The 2013 Carrie film? I don't think so. I actually haven't seen much horror in general. I will say one horror short that I shared when we read The Rake creepypasta last Freaky Friday, or this past Saturday, was I think it's called I Hear It Too on YouTube. I Heard It Too by Matt Sears. If you haven't seen that short, watch it. If you dare. You've seen it. It is atrocious, dude. Sorry, don't watch it now. Do not watch it now, especially if you're about to go to bed. I changed my mind. Don't. It's worse. It's worse than this, dude. It's worse than this. To give you like a small idea. It's been a long time since I've seen it, and I'm kind of grateful for that. I have like a vague memory of what it looked like. But I don't really have much desire to refresh that memory. Omni just sends immediately. Don't watch it. Just don't. Honest to goodness. Sure enough. Sure enough. Nice. Vincent V. Cava. Yeah, there's some other ones by him, right? That would be worth reading for spooky, scary Saturday. I have decided, by the way. I'm gonna give it a try this weekend. We'll test run Fantasy Friday, Spooky Scary Saturday, and Sci-Fi Sunday. He has another one that's really good. Which one? It's called A Favor for Favor, I think. A favor for a favor. Vincent V. Cava. Oh, there's the reading for it on YouTube. Yeah, you got it right. Here it be. Interesting take on the devil. Yeah, it sounds a lot like that. Favor for a favor. Deal with the devil. It fits at least. Alright, save that one to my folder. Making him a really arrogant teenager. That kind of makes sense. Good old Lucifer, dude. He's just mad at at his dad. You don't understand me, Dad. You don't understand. I want to be God too, but you won't let me. Arrogant teenager devil sounds like it would be oddly accurate. Absolutely, dude. I mean, he's like the reason he was grounded. Think about it. He was grounded. Granted, for eternity. He went into a rebellious phase. And yeah, like I guess it was a little bit like grand scheme because he like put together like he got others to rebel with him. He was the leader of the arrogant teens. Yo, have you guys heard that? Sorry, I popped into my head at random. But have you guys seen Midnight Gospel? There's a quote that involves like just that phrase "arrogant teenager" that I really like a lot. The part where he's talking to like the therapist, Dave was his name, and he goes like, most people think that we need to treat our minds like they're an arrogant teen, right? Like we just need them to shut up and to ground our brains and get them to go away. But we need not shove a butt plug in the asshole of our mind. Vincent V. Cava also wrote an actual good Jeff the Killer story. I'm being totally serious when I say that. No joke. Jeff the Killer. I'm not familiar with that adage. What is what or who is Jeff the Killer? Yeah, have you not heard it? Yeah, the main character, Clancy, he says like, so what you're trying to say is it's not like you're supposed to shove a butt plug in the asshole of your mind. Jeff the Killer is the ancient creepypasta. It's awful. But he managed to make it good. That's something special. If a writer can take a concept that was done poorly and poorly executed and execute it himself and prove like the concept still like worthy and good, that's incredible. Like really bad, dude. Yeah, I've considered like reading some bad creepypasta on Freaky Fridays or now Spooky Scary Saturdays. Do a crappy. I need some suggestions. I don't know much about like the pasta verse. That is not only proof of an amazing writer, but also some of the most dominance asserting stuff you could do. Absolutely. Yeah, you prove your pudding in those moments. And that's also like another thing, right? Like ideas often just come from other ideas, you know? Media sparks other media. I have a collection of awful creepypasta if you need them, please. Honestly, my in my Discord, I have a suggestion box. Yeah, a reading requests box, and it is nearly empty and in need of some filling. If you would dump some good ones in there, I'll be sure to include them in this Saturday's dealio. Oh yeah, that could work too. Either way, dude. Oh, shoot, that's right. Yeah, I may like private the. How would I work that out? How would I make it so that like only I can access it, but people can still post there? I don't know. I don't know how to do that. There's a way to do that? Word up. Holler back. No, you make a good point, dude. Again, Omni, you're a smart lad. These are things that zoom by my head, zoom through my ears, in one, out the other. Think so? Cool. Cool. Nice. Do you guys want to hear the theme for Freaky Friday? I know since we just read a spooky tale, it may be appropriate. Or I can save it for this upcoming Saturday. But I only play it like during the breaks and at the very start of the stream, so often people don't get a chance to hear the whole thing. But I worked hard on it, and I'm proud of it. It's pretty boppin'. And I'm excited. I did some serious work on the Sci-Fi Saturday theme. Take a listen before I head off to bed. Try to shake off the shivers down my spine that you gave me. Ooh, I may write a short horror story at some point. Dude, please do. I would love to be like a proofreader, if you would have me. And then whenever you feel it's ready to publish, I'd love to give it a read on stream. If you would like my voice to vocalize it to the public. But heck yeah. Let's give it a listen. This is the Freaky Friday theme. I called it Hold Your Breath. It is a spooky song, but I hope it doesn't send too many shivers down your spine. I'll play after it my normal outro theme, so that'll bring the cool back. But yeah, here it is. I hope you enjoy. I'll mute my mic. My mic.
Malicious hearts beat loud. My voice, it smells your fear. It won't act till you're alone. You only postpone. Scream, cry, hold your breath. Cold as death. Look behind you if you dare. If so, beware. Anxious hearts beat loud, my dear. It smells your fear. It won't act till you're alone. You only postpone.
Gives me the willies every time I think of it.
Spooky, right? Spooky, no? I made it myself. Try to make it super duper spooky. Hope you enjoyed. Again, I call it Hold Your Breath. Yeah, if you liked that one, I tend to play my past works, my past jam-a-lams, during breaks of my streams. Or I ought to, like, I don't know, and I'm planning on making like an actual Mary Mitch Spotify and SoundCloud soon, so that I can post anything that I make for this channel there, and start posting just like new works and junk there too. Yeah. It was a pretty fun project. I liked doing the spooky voice. Anxious hearts beat loud, my dear. It was a fun time. Heck yeah. Well, guys, I guess we'll start wrapping up from here. Fun fact, I once had a lecture on Slenderman at my university. The Slenderman? What did you guys talk about? Was it just like the influence of Slenderman that he had throughout the years? Or was it I don't know. What else would it be? Like his influence, or how to do like a character like Slenderman? How to be slender like the Slenderman? Were you taking a course on how to be more Slenderman-esque? Or how to avoid him? I have to go for now. Take it easy. Have a good night. Thanks, Kratos, for sticking around, man. I appreciate it. Much love. Remember to spread the merriment. Boink. Yeah, I hope to see you around. Bye. We were looking at modern storytelling methods and how the internet has become the modern urban legend hub, basically. Nice, heck yeah. Oh yeah, and I'm hoping Fantasy Friday would probably be a good night for it. Lucas, if we want to incorporate some Skyrim scrolls into that night, that could be a good place for it. I enjoyed it that one night that we did it. I would love to do it again at some point. I know our schedules haven't aligned super duper well as of late, but still down for that. Oh, you started a new game? Yeah, it would be Friday. We could also push it to Saturday or Sunday though. I'd be alright with that. Despite horror being my weakness, I really enjoyed this. Thanks for being so welcoming. Das vidanya. Das vidanya, my friend. Thanks so much for coming around, sticking around, and listening to me read and practice my craft. I appreciate every single one of you. And I am, yeah, I'm blessed to have you guys around. Mitch, if you read Boraska, please DM me about it. I'd love to chat to someone about it. Heck yeah. That'd be good, man. Yeah. Heck yeah. I'll have like a good amount of free time, I think, this week and the next week. So I have to have time to read it. And if you say it's good, I already know that your suggestions are quite killer. It's long, but not too long. Yeah, it seems like the chapters honestly aren't wildly long. Like, yeah, they'd be equivalent to like maybe 5 pages tops, like in a normal book. Oh, and there's an audiobook? Nice. I may actually listen to that as I read. Or maybe not. I don't know. I do like I like me a good audiobook, but if it's something that I'm like trying to read and focus on, sometimes I like to give it my own characters and read it out loud in my head. Yeah, I haven't heard of Mr. Creepypasta. He seems like a swell chap, someone I'd like to meet. I'll check him out. Nice. Heck yeah. If anything, like it would be good for me to I'd like to watch his stuff and see if I can take some notes. Truly excellent. Nice. Mr. Creepypasta. Let me see. Where can I write that down? I've got it. I'll put it in the suggestions box. The reading requests. Mr. Creepypasta. Audio books. Alright, word. Nice, guys. Sick. Well, we managed to turn what I thought was gonna be an hour and a half long stream into a 3-hour stream. That's a really cool thing. And it's thanks to you goobers showing up. I appreciate it. But I do have something in the morning, so I've stayed up sadly about as long as I can. And I'll need to say goodbye now. But it's cool that man, it's really cool to hear that some of you guys will be returning on the weekend, and again, Lucas, you're too good to me, man. I appreciate. I'm serious. I appreciate every time you raid me. Do we want to? I haven't ever done it before, but do we want to try raiding someone else? Normally, I do a little outro and then call it a night. But we could try raiding someone else. Heck yeah. Okay. Who to raid? Who is on? Take a look. Who be online? Oh, Cookie's online. Let's raid him. How do I do it? Do I go /raid or something? Raid. Okay. I think this will do the thing, right? Go to my stream manager. That's how to do it. Yeah, there's a command. Oh, yo, but yeah, there's a button here. Frick. That makes it easier. Yeah, my buddy is doing a Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time randomizer speedrun. Don't know if that interests any of you guys, but Cookie is just a lovely goober. I love him to death. And yeah, he's just a real wholesome guy. He does some Legend of Zelda stuff. So let's go say hey. Let's do it. I'll play the reprise as we wait to go, or the outro reprise. Well, guys, thanks again for coming and watching. Let's go ahead and jump over and give Cookie some love. Alright, much love, my wildflowers. I'll be seeing you hopefully tomorrow or the weekend. Mwah. Stay beautiful, and again, remember to spread the merriment. And encourage yourselves, and do hard things. Alright, love you guys. Bye! Start the raid. Alright, it's happening in 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and see ya. Raid now. Is it doing it? Are we in? What are you doing?